Hi guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to draft a trouser pattern, and if it's something you are interested in, please keep on watching and let's get started. So the first thing I did was to draw a horizontal line at the top of my paper, and this will serve as my waistline, and I'm simply going to label it. So the next measurement I'll take is my waist to hip measurement. So you can use about 8 to 9 inches depending on the measurement of the person. You can as well take the measurement on the person's body. So I'm going to use 9 inches here. So next I'll take my waist to crotch measurement, and the picture above illustrates how to take the waist to the crotch measurement. All you need to do is just tell the person to sit down on a flat surface and you take the measurement. So right now I'm just going to connect the dots I made on my hip and on my crotch. So I'm just going to label them to avoid confusion. That's my hip and that's my crotch. So next I'll take my thigh measurement, and all I need to do is just come down by 3 inches from my crotch measurement. So I'll just come down by 3 inches and I'll also connect the dots. And I'll go ahead to label it as my thigh. So next I'll take my waist to my knee measurement, which is about 24 inches. All you need to do is just to measure the person's waist to knee measurement. Then I'll also connect. Then I'll go ahead and label it also. So for my ankle, I already took my ankle measurement. That's the measurement from my waist to my ankle. So right now, what I'm going to do next is to take my hip measurement. So my hip measurement is 40 inches and I will add 1 inch to it, which will make it 41. So I will divide that 41 by 4. It will give me 10.25, and I'm going to mark it on my hip. So the same measurement I took on my hip, I will take it on my crotch and also on my waistline. Please, I'm going to repeat it again. So let's say my hip is 40 inches. I'll add 1 to it, it will be 41. I'll divide that 41 by 4, it will be 10.25, and I will mark it on my hip, my waist, and on my crotch. And I'll connect those 3 dots together vertically. So right now on my crotch, I'm going to divide the 10.25 by 4. That 10.25 from my hip, I'll divide it by 4 to give me 2.5. So I'm going to mark that 2.5 on my crotch like this. So that will give me the major crotch measurement. So from that place, I'm going to mark about 1.5 inches so that I can create that curve at the crotch. So I'm going to mark 1.5 inches from that angle, like so. Then I'll use my curve to connect it like this. I'll connect it straight to my crotch. Connect it like this. And I'll connect it to my hip also. So that will give me the curved part of the crotch. So the next thing I will do is to divide my waist measurement by 4. My waist measurement divided by 4 is about 7.5 inches. But I'll add half an inch for ease. And I'll also add 1 inch for my dart. So I added half an inch for my ease and 1 inch for that on my waist. So I'm simply going to connect that to my hip. You know, we've already taken our hip measurement, so I'm just going to connect that to my hip like this. I'm going to use my cuff to connect. So next I'll take the measurement of my crouch, the entire measurement. I'll take that and I'll divide it by 2. I'm going to use my tape to divide it like this. Then whatever it gives me, I'm just going to put it in the middle like this. I'll take that on my crouch, on my hip, on my waist. I'll take it on my knee also and on my ankle. This is to enable me shape the trouser very well. It's a guideline for shaping my trouser. Sorry. So I'm going to take that entire measurement. Please, if you are confused about any part of this video, you can pause it and replay it. So right now I'm just going to use my ruler to connect those dots. So next I'll take my thigh measurements. So my thigh, I'll divide it by 2, and whatever it gives me, I'm going to fold my tape again into 2, and I'll put it on the midpoint like this. As you can see, my tape is folded. I'll just put it on the midpoint like this, and I'll mark it on both sides. So the next measurement I'll take now is my knee circumference, and I'll divide that my knee circumference by 2. Whatever it gives me, I'll fold it into 2, and I'll mark it on both sides like this. So next I'll take my ankle measurement, and I'll divide that into 2. Whatever it gives me, I'll simply fold my tape into 2 again, and I'll mark it on both sides like this. So be reminded that to take your ankle measurement, there are 2 ways. The first picture is for a stretchy material. If you're wearing a stretchy material, you can take it around your ankle. But the second picture is for materials that are not stretchy, so that your leg can be able to enter inside very well. So right now I'm going to connect all the marks I made together. I'll connect the mark I made from my knee to my ankle. I'll use my ruler to connect it like this. I'll do that also on the second side. So next I'll connect my thigh to my knee. I'm going to use my curve to connect it like this. As you know, it's not straight, so I will use my curve to connect like this. Then I'm going to use my curve also to connect it on the other side like this. Then the same curve, I will use it to connect to my crouch, from my thigh to my crouch. And I'll also connect to my at the other side. I'll also use my curve to connect it. So at my ankle, I took about 2 inches downwards. That will be for my allowance, and I'll simply connect. I'm sorry my camera didn't capture that part, but I just took 2 inches downwards for my allowance. And by the side, I took about half an inch from the side of that 2 inches, I took about half an inch. This is because when I'm folding my trouser, it will align very well with the sides of the trouser. Because if I draw it straight, when I fold it, there will be a little bit of shortage by the sides. So I just came out by half an inch. That's all. So I'm going to label it now. This is my front pattern. So next I'll take my dart and I'll come down by 4 inches from this line, and I'll take half an inch on both sides. This will serve as my dart. So I'll simply connect it like this. So we're done drafting the front pattern, and now we'll go to the back. So I'm going to be using a new pattern paper for the back, and I'll simply place my front pattern on top of it like this. But I'll make sure that I left enough space by the side and at the top of the new pattern paper. So I won't place it directly or exactly the way it is at the front. I'm going to leave about 2 inches by the side, and I'll leave about 2 to 3 inches on top also. So I'm going to use my pin to hold it down. This is because I'm going to be using a tracing wheel to trace out the front on top of the back. So I'll just use my safety pin to hold both papers down so that there won't be any mistake or the paper won't shift at all. So I'll just use my pin to hold everything down flatly. Another alternative is that you can as well cut out the front before tracing out the back. If you don't have a tracing wheel, you can just cut out the front and place your front on top of a fresh pattern paper. So right now I'm going to use my tracing wheel to trace the front on top of the back. Please watch closely. I'm just using it to trace it. So I'm just going to use my tracing wheel to trace all the lines. So I'm basically tracing all the lines I have on my paper, from the crotch to my hip line to my knee line to my thigh line. I'm just going to trace everything out on a new paper. That's all. So after tracing, I just simply remove the front pattern from the fresh paper. So right now I'm going to use my marker to simply draw the lines that I traced with my tracing wheel. So I'm just going to mark everything out the same way I traced it on my paper. So right now I'm going to label them. That's my crouch, this is my hip, my thigh, my knee, and my ankle. So right now on my crotch, I'm going to come out by 2 inches. Then from that 2 inches, I'm just going to come down by half an inch. Right now I'm trying to draw the crouch for the back of my trouser. So right now I'm going to measure this part of my trouser, and whatever I have, I'm going to divide it by 2. So it gave me 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2 inches. So I'm just going to mark that 2 inches at the middle like this. Then I'll come to my crotch and measure whatever it is that I have there. Then I'll take that measurement up on that 2 inches. Then I'll place my tape at the middle of my crotch. I'll come up by 2 inches so that I can use it to connect the crotch at the back. So watch what I'm doing. I'm simply going to use my curve to make the connection like this. So I'm just going to connect it to that midpoint I made at the back of the trouser. Just watch what I'm doing. Just going to connect it like that. Then I'll also connect it to that other point I made at the top. That's about 2.5 inches. So that's it. So right now I'm going to take my waist measurements for the back, and what I'll do is to measure my waist circumference at the front. Whatever I have there, I'm just going to place it like this at the back. So I'm just going to use my ruler to connect that point together. Just going to place my ruler and connect it like this. So I'm going to label the other side of the trouser also. So right now I want to take the back measurement because the back is different from the front. So from my thigh, I'm going to come out by 1 inch. I'll do that for my thigh, my knee, and my ankle. I'll take 1 inch each. So I didn't take the actual ankle measurement at the back, so I simply want to draw the line. So the down part is the allowance for it. So I'm just going to come out by 1 inch also at the ankle, and I'll come out by 1 inch at the allowance also. So on the other side, I'm going to also come out by 1 inch. So the 1 inch I'm taking is, please don't forget, it's from my thigh, my knee, and my ankle. So right now I'm going to connect those lines, the 1 inch I took at the sides. I'm just simply going to connect them together like this. Then from my thigh, I'm going to connect straight to my waist. So now for the dart at the back, I'm just going to measure what I have at this side of the front trouser. I'm going to take it at the back like this, which is 4 inches. So I'm just going to draw a straight line at the back like this. Then I'll mark about 5 inches for my dart at the back, and I'll come out by half an inch on both sides. So I'll simply connect it to that 5 inches. So I'm done drafting the back pattern, and right now, if you are going to cut on your material, please don't forget to add your allowance of half an inch, round it. So please add allowance of half an inch. I'm not going to add it on my pattern paper now. I'll add it on my material. So right now, I'm just going to cut it out. So I'm also going to cut out the front pattern, and please also add half an inch allowance around it. Please don't forget to add your allowance when you're cutting on your material. So if you're adding a band to your trouser, all you need to do is just cut out about 1.5 inches or 2 inches, depending on how big you want the band to be. So you have to cut it out on your pattern paper. I'm going to be cutting out about 1.5 inches, but if you are not using a band, if you're using elastic, you can just leave it like that. The elastic will serve as the band for you. So right now, I'm just going to cut out this part. I took 1.5 inches. I'm also going to do the same thing at the back. I'm going to take 1.5 inches also at the back. So what you need to do is just place it on your material and cut it out. So after cutting the band out, please remember to extend your dart. This is because the band won't have a dart on it. So all you need to do is just extend the dart like this. You do that at the front and also at the back. So we are done drafting the trouser pattern. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you find the video very useful. Please, if you've not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. You can also like and share it. And I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you.